Okay, I'm coming. I'm coming. And we've returned. Uh, Part of the category thing, wanted to go through, and I've been using it for a while. And I made up my comprehensive list of categories out of what I saw in the book and what I went to the websites. So it's kind of my modern list to look at and use today. And with that, I want to go through and have kind of looked at some ideas of how they can be used. So have initially my 5 takeaways from the category study, and I'll have one at the end. I'm going to go through and kind of go down through the 5 that I came up with, and then give some examples that I've experienced with it, and then kind of finish up with one at the end, which kind of falls in after I've gone through some of this other stuff, other information here. First off is think globally. Definitely we're finding through all of this that we're not dealing with the local market. We're dealing now with the U.S. market. We're dealing with the entire planet now when we're working with the microstock area. So you need to think globally with it, but you're going to be shooting locally. Unless you're a travel photographer or something, which then you'll go to those locations, but otherwise you'll be working within your physical realm, but keeping in mind what's going on globally. People photos are in high demand. That still remains. So you want to animate a shot. If it's not directly a people shot, shooting something else, you want to try to animate it, which means you want to try to incorporate a person or people into the shot if possible. We are a social animal, therefore we look to see what other monkeys are doing, what other people are doing. So it may just be you standing in the photo with your back next to the lake, but also now we've introduced a human element into it, and that can add new interest into a photo. Again, that's just another takeaway I saw. Times you want to say, I don't want to think about that, I want to deal with that. Keeping the categories in mind when you're out on other assignments. It's one where you don't want to pass up an opportunity. If you're out shooting something else and you see something, it's like, oh, that'll fit into, I know now my categories, that'll fit in this category. Take me 2 seconds, I'll get that shot too. Do your research. With all of this, definitely finding, you see which categories you have an edge in or you find an angle in, but you know the category, and you say, well, do I have an edge or a spot where that will work for me, and I can then do my research on that. Within a category, look for scarcity and or what you do better. So you want to look do your research, say I know this category, I can do well within this category. Can I do it better than others, or is there a scarcity within it? Evaluate photo ideas against size of category to see what to invest. So that's the idea that you're looking at a category, it's going to cost me X amount of dollars for models, X amount of dollars for transportation, all of this. And if the category is real small, it's like, well, you're never going to get payback on it. If you are evaluating 2 different projects, you may go through and look at the idea that this one category is a high demand. I've got a good spot in another category. I like the idea, but it's a small category. Payback is going to be very small on it. So you might want to go do the big project, the better one that will match up with a good, strong category to go through and do a resell on it. And that was part of what I did with my list was I went ahead and rated them on the size of the category to go through and say this is a stronger category, like business, big strong category, as opposed to some other categories that were very small, as we saw going through the stock book. Also within that realm, when looking at what to invest in a photo idea, if it's a weak category, you're going to say, well, if I can do it fairly cheap, I'll go do it. If it's a strong category, it's like, well, I'm going to have to invest some money into it, but there's a bigger demand in this market, therefore there's a bigger chance of making photo sales. So this stuff's all kind of proven. I've got so far 150 downloads on Shutterstock, and it's pointing out most of my sales are happening globally, not locally. So this initial thing seems to be some gaining experience, kind of with these ideas. So now to give you some examples where this is applied or had missed opportunities. And the first one is a missed opportunity. I was over photographing a new fountain in the area, for travel photos, and I didn't know about the categories then. And I saw a really cool thing happen with the water. It was like just focusing on the water. It's like this great abstract texture thing going on, but it's like, no, I'm photographing the travel stuff. Now I know there's a category for abstracts. And it would take me like 2 seconds to go through and work with and photograph that, and I would have had a photo for a different category other than travel. And so if you know the categories, it can help you perhaps not to pass up opportunities, because you can keep those in mind and say, I'm out here photographing this, but look, this is right here in front of me. Take me 2 seconds, I'll just throw that photograph in too, and I'll know a category I can fit it into. I know a place that there is a demand in the marketplace based on what we've been researching here, so I want to get that photo. And in that case, I didn't take the photo. I didn't get the abstract photo, so I was out of luck. So you can look at the categories and say, well, do I have, this is another point, another example, do I have a connection with that category? An example is with medical category. There's a YouTuber out there who's the teaching doc, and he's a doctor, and he sounds like he's from India. And so I've seen a lot of example photos he did was things around the medical area. He had a perfect in, and so it's great for him to just immediately tie in and work with that. I don't have a medical, I'm not a doctor, but I started thinking, well, I have mountaineering first aid. Been trained on that, been teaching times with that, assisting with that. So that's kind of my edge. My edge would be more in the mountaineering, backcountry first aid, not first responder level, but just the first aid level. So then I did my research. And research showed that there was a lack of photos in the hiking area, or they were really flaky. I mean, it's just like these people actually have never done it before. They've never been out there before. It was really strong in mountain rescue. So it's like, okay, mountain rescue, they got helicopters, they've got all these guys out there with ropes and stuff. That's pretty well covered. But really found like the hiking part was really weak. So there was definitely an opportunity there to do photos of more realistic first aid in the backcountry for hikers and backpackers. And even to the point, I was looking like, well, we have a pretty standard thing that we carry in our first aid kit, like having the first aid kit out. But everything they had was like the store-bought thing with the Red Cross on it, say, oh, I've got a backcountry first aid kit. Yeah, but what's in it? The store-bought ones are kind of useless compared to what you really need out there. And then also it's like everything they're doing is like, oh, it's a beautiful sunshiny day. Well, guess what? It happens in the snow. It happens in the rain. Showing it in those realistic conditions on that. Now, again, this is a large market category, but you're going down for a really small niche part of it and finding out there is a real lack in that area. So that's something I got to go out and work on that. I have photos from my mountaineering first aid cast, but I don't have any model releases from anybody. And do a better job of staging it out in the snow or something like that. Looking at another category was agriculture. And again, kind of seeing how that one's kind of died out, and I don't want to let it go. I went through and had an opportunity open up for me. That around here we don't have many goats. So I thought, goats and kind of agriculture and stuff. I have a friend who has a bunch of goats. So I thought, well, I'll go out and just photograph those. So I just went out and tried, well, how hard can be photographing goats? I found it can be pretty hard. They tend to tromp around everywhere. Hard to keep them in focus. And so I figured the first time out it'd be kind of a test thing. I'll go do that. And then I went back and researched the category. I thought, well, there's not many goats here. There's got to be not many goats on Shutterstock or on the microstock sites. Well, it turned out there were a ton. There were like 1,400 pages of goats. And even though locally it's very thin, globally it seems like a lot of countries, everybody has their backyard goat. Everybody's far more rural, and there were goat pictures of every type that was available. I don't know much about goats. I don't have an edge in that area. So for me, quickly found out that is not an opportunity. That's not a category for me to work in. Had another one within the agriculture area where I thought, well, in my backyard, I had corn growing out there. I'd go photograph corn. Before I got into photographing, this time I went through and researched it. And I found out the same thing, even though we tend to grow grass seed around here instead of corn. So you can make sure your golf course is well manicured. It was one where globally there's a lot of corn pictures. Again, like 1,500 pages of pictures of corn. And they had every angle of it covered with people who really know corn, who have access to fields, to every type of varieties of corn. And quickly found out, well, I don't have an expertise. I don't have an edge in this area. That's an idea. I just need to let go. It's not going to work. I need to go find things that I have a knowledge and an edge in to work on. Last one I have on this is there's also a part of it that for me gets into it. All this is like, okay, where can I go photograph? What are ideas I can work with to get things up that have a good chance of selling? The last one is fun factor. And as I'm getting older and doing this stuff, I'm looking to have fun. So I do a lot of outdoor stuff. I'm outdoor, loving doing outdoor scenics, but everybody's doing that. And the category is there. It's a good size category, but it is just saturated. And I don't necessarily, we're not that unique of a scenic situation here. There's some good stuff we can work with, but I'm still going to go shoot it because that's what I love doing. So I'm going to head out and keep doing scenic photographs. I'm still going to go snowshoeing high up on Mount Hood, and I'm going to go into the crater and photograph in there because I just think it's really neat. Probably not going to be that much of a market for it, but the fun factor's there, and so that's important to me also. Excuse me. The last one I have as a takeaway the first five, and then this will be a sixth one, kind of the takeaway I had from this thing. That goes back to the thing that my brother told me a long time ago was, don't be too proud to clean someone else's toilets. So it's great to go out and do the big eye candy shots, and you kind of love that visually. But a lot of stuff that is going to be needed in selling is going to be the day-to-day things. It's going to be the fill-in. And I just heard another YouTuber who kind of was talking about the same thing in her travel photos, that she was going through and talking about doing the big glamour shots, but she's made money on photographing garbage cans at an event. She's gone through and have done all these side things that were around. And I've still haven't had, too much that way, even though one photo I had download was just a sidewalk at a park that I was photographing. It wasn't their interest in the park, they were interested in the sidewalk and the greenery around it. So surprising things like that come up. The classic example that we've seen through the years of this idea was you've got a bunch of photographers in, and they're trying to get in there to photograph, the event or the spot, and they're all crowded in there. Somebody steps back and they photograph the photographers and see the craziness going on with the photographers trying to get this shot, and that becomes the unique shot and the thing that goes out into the world. So this is kind of my first run at what I'm starting to utilize the categories for, to analyze what to work with, what to sell, what categories, basically what known has been sold, and how much of it has been sold, to say what do I have locally that I can work with to reach not only locally but to reach a global market. So just wanted to kind of finish up. We've got the categories, keeping things in mind. How can you use them? And that was what I tried to present here. Hope that's been useful, and I thank you for watching.